Good morning, everyone. So excited to be with you today here on Writers Chat. My name is Johnny Alexander. I'm joined by two of my wonderful co-hosts, Brandy Bro and Norma Poor. And Norma has the privilege of introducing our special guest today.
Thank you, Johnny. Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be able to introduce Sally. I've known her for many years. She's been a contributor to Almost an Author for a long time, and her devotions are just amazing. She's a wonderful author. Let me tell you a little bit about Sally. She writes devotions, as I said, for Almost an Author, and her most recent publications are in World Girls Collectives and vinewords.net. Her coloring book, What Will I Be When I Grow Up? And How to Plan a Woman's Retreat are available on Amazon. Check out the book giveaways at sallyferguson.net. Today she's going to be talking to us about, excuse me, y'all, give me one moment.
Bless you.
Seasonal allergies. Yay! Today she's going to talk to us about how to craft words that sing or shorten craft words that sing. Do you want to put spark in your writing? Every author can capture life with a few simple tricks that will allow editors excuse me, that will wow editors and lead to enduring relationships. Create rhythm in your words that leaves them asking for more. Without further ado, Sally, take it away.
Thank you for inviting me to join you at Writers Chat. It's always fun to be with writers, and it's always a special treat to be a part of your writing life. You have chosen an important step to setting aside time to cultivate your craft, and that's a retreat in my book. Anytime you can have a writing retreat and meet with other writers, you were someone who gets you. I had a funny thing happen on my way to publication. Send us your stories about cherries. The caption from the Country Woman magazine caught my eye, and I knew my name was right next to it, in invisible ink, of course. After honing the narrative to match their style, I put together some pictures of my daughter picking the bright red fruit from her ladder perch. That article didn't sell, but my tip on using red food coloring to boost the color in pies did land my name in that publication. I thought I had arrived. Months later, I was surprised to find a hardcover, full color cookbook in my mailbox. The parent company, Ryman Publications, decided to print a collection of the best of country cooking recipes, and my food coloring tip again landed in print. The original article about cherries had turned into a one-liner success, and I received a free author's copy of the book. Wait, there's more. That piece was repurposed into a devotional called God's Remarkable Orchard and sold to Pathways to God. Joked about it with other cooks, and now you're hearing about it at a writer's chat. Who knew that success could taste so good? What's the moral of my story? Don't squash your cherries or articles before you get all the juice out. How many times have you sent in a story that felt like a perfect match for the market, but the editor didn't agree? Was it a waste of time? Absolutely not. You are in a perpetual learning journey. Your words are being honed as you practice the craft. If you keep it to yourself and never submit your words to an editor, Marie Messer says, creativity that isn't shared is like playing music to an empty room. No one benefits, not even you. So let's look at 3 fail-safe techniques you can develop that will wow editors. Technique number 1, research. The way you invest in your work will pay off. It will make the difference between a good article and a great one. What do you need to learn more about? The web, business savvy, taxes? We will need to keep growing our whole lives. Education is a curiosity about many things and builds a repertoire. Catherine, a speaker friend, says, if we can become teachable, we can be great. If not, we may never rise above our natural weaknesses. That's what I like so much about Mary Beth Whalen's book, For the Right Reason. In this book, writers, agents, and editors share their experiences with Christian publishing. You get to peek at their beginnings and their struggles. By learning from someone else, maybe we avoid some of the traps and the bumps in the school of hard knocks. But definitely, they provide a roadmap for us to follow. When I began writing articles over 29 years ago, I never dreamed of anything beyond that. But I kept learning and seeking God's niche for my writing. One result was being published with a coloring book. And this has been a joy as I seek to get it into other people's hands to spread the good news that God cares about all vocations. So let's talk about the ABCs of writing. A. Alternate words. Read through your work to find duplications. Use a thesaurus to add flavor. Be a sleuth to find the right words to describe your thought. For instance, for the word writer, you can use letter writer, penman, calligrapher, scribe, copyist, scribbler, scrawler, author, professional writer, novelist, playwright, dramatist, poet, essayist, literature, reporter, journalist, newspaperman, newspaperwoman, correspondent, reviewer, critic, columnist, scriptwriter, screenwriter, television writer, songwriter, librettist, hack, penny liner. But my favorite of all, wordsmith. B, let's look at background. A dictionary can enhance your understanding of commonly used words, or it can give material that would break open a new angle to your topic. What information will you assemble to fill in your topic? Maybe some of your research will take you to current news and statistics. Maybe you'll look on the internet. C. Concise instructions. Look up the writer's guidelines on the publication's website and follow it to the letter. The editor has specified the format for a reason. For example, VISTA guidelines. The editor won't even read the submission if the email isn't formatted to his specifications. It won't get filed with the correct category in order for him to locate it when considering the applications for that category. When you cooperate with the instructions, you fill a need for that editor and create a long-lasting relationship where you become a go-to person for that editor. Through longevity with Pathways to God, I lasted through 4 editor changes. I learned to be flexible, be on time for deadlines, be enthusiastic with assignments given, and be personable in correspondence. Technique number 2, illustrate. The illustrations you will use bring your article alive. Lucy Swindoll says an artist is simply one who looks at life. He or she is interested and interesting. When we're interested, we ask ourselves questions about life. We're curious about our own inner world. We ponder. We wonder, hunt. We study what is in front of us and look deeper than the outside form. We see beyond the obvious and have a greater sense of truth and meaning than we do when we fail to really see. Let's look at the 3 R's. Number 1, relevant. Train yourself to be alert to life. Document what you see in a journal in order to keep the facts straight. Lucy says, Few people take adequate time for reflection, and many regret that they don't. Who said the important always gets sacrificed on the altar of the urgent? Taking time is a better way to live. Rather than racing from one activity to another, let's take our time. Let's reflect on who we are, where we're going, and the life God has given us. Let's live acts worth recording and record them. Who knows what we'll learn and who will learn from our enlightenment in years to come. Number 2, recent. Use current word pictures. Study magazines to stay up to date with what's in the news. Have an online news feed at your fingertips. Be engaged with current events. For example, author and speaker James Watkins has articles on crisis management and grief counseling that he resurfaces when our society hits turmoil, like 9/11, the Boston bombings, and school shootings. Number 3, reason. Have a reason for including your story in the article. It has to make a point or it has to go. An outline is important in the organization. It will help carry a thought coherently. An outline is like a best friend. It helps you stay on track when you might have wandered. In Becoming a Woman of Influence, Carol Kent talks about filling in those outlines with stories. She says stories intrigue us and keep us guessing about the outcomes and responses. They fill us with anticipation. They also can answer our questions. Stories can teach complex theological truths in ways that do not intimidate or threaten. Stories connect us to the storyteller, providing companionship and comfort. In an interview with Max McLean, founder of the Fellowship for the Performing Arts, Max states, "If the story does not touch you, doesn't get a rise out of you, it's not going to get a rise out of anyone else." Passion communicates. The key is that the story resonates and you are thinking about it after you leave, and the next day you are thinking about it, and that means it is permeating the culture. Stories also bring a personal element into your speech and let the audience know more about what you struggle with in life. I have seen that repeatedly as a Bible study teacher. When I am vulnerable about my questions, it frees others up to take off their mask as well. Carol also talks about the importance of questions in Chapter 6 of Becoming a Woman of Influence. She begins with a story. On a hot Midwestern afternoon, reporters from several area newspapers swarmed over the competitors at a state track meet, interviewing the winner in a highly contested foot race. They wanted to know, how did you train? Is this your best event? What did it feel like to win? Before long, only one reporter remained. Struggling to come up with an angle for his story, he asked the shy runner, "Is there anything you had to overcome in order to be here today?" "Well, yes," said the track star. "As a child, I had polio." The real story was uncovered by the right question. Who would have thought that a single question could be so powerful? And yet that is often the case. According to authors Robert and Pamela Crosby, good questions create interest. Great ones inspire a response. Good questions open conversations. Great ones open souls. Good questions raise issues. Great ones evoke dreams and visions. Good questions elicit ideas. Great questions uncover needs. So use stories and questions to grab your listener's ear. One more secret before we move on. This acronym is also from the Christian Leaders, Authors, and Speakers seminar I attended. Imagine you are floating across an ocean of ideas. What will help you get to the shore? As you look across that ocean, you see a pier along the shore and instinctively know it will anchor you safely. What is that pier that will bring home your article? Point, instruction, examples, reinforcements. If you have a point with with only an instruction tip, then you'll sound preachy. If you have a point, instruction, and examples, then you'll sound opinionated. But if you use references to reinforce your point, instruction, and examples, then you have a peer in your message. So, what do you use for reinforcement? You can use the Bible, experts, surveys, and books with quotes. You want your message to stick out in their mind like a peer. Technique number 3, bring hope. Our world knows about turmoil and difficulty. Don't belabor problems. Give hope. The class services acronym for HOPE is helping other people emotionally. When you spend too much time on a problem and neglect to give hope, you will leave your reader feeling drained. Your writing gives you a platform to bring hope to a culture and a time in history that is in desperate need of it. Class also says people with buckets of burdens are waiting for people with armloads of answers. So, challenge to the reader. Give your audience an actionable task to follow. Help them to find ways to apply what they've just read. The challenge is for them to take action. So, here are some ideas about ways that we can give to others through our words. First, when we write, we give help to others. You never know what someone might need at that moment in your audience, but God does and can use you to minister to them. If I'm doing a travel log, then I might tell them where to find good rates. If I'm teaching a cooking class, I'll give tips to follow the recipe successfully. Maybe you'll teach golfing techniques or household organization, but always seek to leave a takeaway value, something they can take home and savor. In his book, Never Eat Alone, Keith Ferrazzi says that when we genuinely want to help others, we will take them along on our journey. The trip becomes a shared process rather than a Lone Ranger survival. Second, as authors, we seek to give mercy. Carol talks about showing compassion in becoming a woman of influence. She says Max Lucado explains why leprosy was so dreaded in Jesus' day. The condition rendered the body a mass of ulcers and decay. Fingers would curl and gnarl. Blotches of skin would discolor and stink. Certain types of leprosy would numb nerve endings, leading to a loss of fingers, toes, even a whole foot or hand. Leprosy was death by inches. The social consequences were as severe as the physical. Considered contagious, the leper was quarantined, banished to a leper colony. In Scripture, the leper is symbolic of the ultimate outcast, infected by a condition he did not seek, rejected by those he knew, avoided by people he did not know, and condemned to a future he could not bear. And in the memory of each outcast must have been the day he was forced to face the truth. Life would never be the same. It's important to note that Jesus' touch was not what was healed the man, his word wiped out the disease. But his touch prior to the word that brought healing was pure compassion. Jesus' compassionate touch validated the man's worth, affirmed his personhood, and revived his hope. You and I may not have the same ability to heal people as Jesus did, but we can offer a healing touch, whether it be through a warm hug, A simple squeeze of an arm, or a gentle touch on the shoulder, or a lingering handshake. Our words can extend compassion. Challenge to the writer: write with integrity. As an author, you are responsible for your words. Check your facts. Leave out speculation. Instead of using sensationalism, back everything up with reliable work. We've all read material that left us disappointed. We've wondered how that managed to get into print. Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians 8:7 to excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in love. So there you have the rib, the bare bones of an article. Now let's put some meat on it by adding words.
Oh, Sally, thank you so much for that.
It's great.
It's great information. We'd like to invite everybody to come on now, and if you have any questions for Sally, this is your time to ask them. I think one thing that really stuck with me is I'm going back to the little tip story and how just that one thing, and we never know, just like how one little thing can just go on and on and on. And it's wonderful that you even got a cookbook out of it, given to you. And so that was just really cool. Anyone have any questions, comments?
Sally, I would ask, because I kind of know our audience, would you mind going down your handout and just give all the answers for the fill-ins? Because I
That's a good
know
idea.
the inquiring minds want to know.
That's a great idea.
Absolutely. And for those who came in late, maybe they need to know that there is a handout
Mhm.
available in the writers chat group. So there, that is available to you. So technique number one, research. Under the ABCs, alternate words, use background, and concise instructions. Technique number two, illustrate. Use the three R's that are number one, relevant, number two, recent, and number three, have a reason. Technique number three, bring hope. Challenge the reader and challenge the writer.
Thank you.
Then on the back of the page, there were resources, great places to look up to get some information for writers.
Right. Well, one thing that I've heard all the times I've been to writers' conferences, going back to like 2007, I guess, was my first major one, the Florida Christian Writers Conference. And, so many of us want to write books, and we do write books, and we love writing books. And that's great. That's like a big dream, big goal. And yet it was said over and over and over again in the different sessions and workshops and things that if you're really wanting to reach the most number of people with your message, you probably aren't going to do it with a book. You're going to do it with articles that are going to be read at that time with magazine subscriptions that, were in the hundreds of thousands. Of course, things change. We don't have the newspapers and magazines that we used to have, but now we've got a lot of online markets. So there really is just this vast field of opportunity to write articles and to get your message really in front of more people than you may with a book, which of course takes a lot more time to write, to get published and all of that kind of thing. So writing articles can be just a wonderful thing. And as I was thinking about this, it was like if you write nonfiction, you know your audience, you know what kinds of articles you need to write. If you're writing fiction, you still have opportunities because you can write about the research that you're doing and the things that you find out that those might be of interest to other people. So just show of hands, who here is writing articles kind of on a consistent basis or would like to? and maybe hasn't done so yet. Okay. Okay. So let's just talk about getting started, like in that, Sally. What would be some tips for um just like I want to be a writer, I want to write articles. You've given good tips about, what to do, but let's go kind of before that, like where do we start?
The best resource a writer can have is a writer's market. There's the Christian writer's market, there's the writer's market, there's children's. I mean, there are so many different ways that we can look up places. And when you go into that writer's market, not only is it a place where we can find a place to put our articles, but it's a treasure trove of ideas. You just reading through the columns of magazines and what they're looking for, all of a sudden it gives you an idea for, oh, I could write about this, or oh, I could write about that. And so that's a great place to start. It gives you the opportunity to find a place to place your articles, but it also sparks the ideas for articles to write.
Sally, I have Christian right Christian market. All right, now I just lost all the words. Words are hard. Christian Market Writers Guide. Is that the right what the
Christian
book's
Writers
called?
Market.
Writer, yeah, that one. From 2 years ago. And I got it was part of the package for the right to publish and conference. Someone, I don't know if it's at that conference or somewhere along the way, said, go through that book with some kind of little sticky marker thing or whatever, and look and tag the pages, mark the pages that have places you would like to submit to. And I thought, well, as a nonfiction article writer, there's probably not that much. Oh, there was a gracious plethora of places to submit. So I have a whole bunch marked and highlighted on each page. And so I would encourage you all to definitely get some of those market guides and go through and see what's out there. You will be surprised at how much is out there and how many of them are open to submissions outside of their agency. So I would encourage y'all to do that. That was great advice, Sally.
And one nice
And
thing living in the online world that we live in, you can have a guide that's a couple years old and you can go on the website and see any updated information that they have. So if you don't have the latest one, that's okay. It's nice to have the latest one, but you can still just go on, like I said, go online. And Joni said that there's an online version of the Christian Market Writers Guide, and of course, it's a good resource. And she says it's easier to maneuver, which is always important for those kinds of things. It's nice to know that.
Yes. Yes.
and something that Norma mentioned really is helpful is when you're looking through those submission guidelines, it will also tell you how many in percentage of new writers they consider.
Hmm.
So if you see one that says 80% staff written, you're going to know that's not going to be easy to get into. But
Yeah.
if you see one that says 50% new writers or 60%, yeah, so look at all the details. Make sure that you're submitting to some place that is going to get your foot in the door, and then you can work with them more. But you want to give yourself as much grace as possible.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sally, I know you mentioned early on, but we have had a few come in late. How long have you been writing?
It's been 29 years. I
Oh.
started when my kids were little because I wanted to have an outlet while they were home and youngsters. And then when they went to school, it gave me an outlet as well. So it's been a learning journey.
That is
That's
great. That is great.
fantastic. Yeah. About how many articles have you written over that time, would you say? Do you know?
I would guess that it's upwards of a couple of hundred
Oh,
articles, but that also there are over 200 devotionals. I've also contributed to, I think, 14 collaborations. So it's fun to have those books that you can have as a resource on your table. And it's just a great opportunity to rub shoulders with other writers.
well, that's true.
You share
That's
your
why we meet here
audiences.
every Tuesday morning, so we can do that.
Right, right. If somebody, excuse me, if someone's say typically writes fiction, but as we had several in the chat said they would like to start writing articles, what would be the very first thing you would suggest to them as their very first step? And this may have already been asked, and I missed it. But what would, outside of the market guide, what would be the first step as far as actually writing an article?
I think fiction writers have a great a great base of things that they can write about because when you're writing your novel or when you're writing your short story fiction, you're researching, like maybe you're going to base your writing in Hilton Head. So on your blog or in an article, you can write about what's happening in Hilton Head. You know, what are the special things to see there? Why is it a big tourist spot? So you can think about travel magazines. You can think about senior magazines, or young traveling with a family on a budget. There's a lot of ways you can mine extra stuff out of that research on Hilton Head that go into your novel, but then also become specific articles that you can write about. You also might be writing about a mystery. So you can write for a publication for writers that says you can say how to write mystery novels.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of ways you can just mine extra stuff out of your fiction writing into article writing.
That's a great idea. I
Mhm.
hadn't thought about that. Using research and turning it into nonfiction articles. That is fantastic. Great idea. Taking lots
And
of notes here, by the way.
a lot of times we think we have to start with a whole different material batch.
Mhm.
But why waste all your time when you've already done the work and you've got these thoughts about these locations, or you know whatever you're writing about, whether it's hidden treasure or you can write about the coinage of that day, in
Yeah.
historical pieces. So there's so much you can already use at your fingertips.
I'm actually writing a story about hidden treasure right now. That
There
seems
you
to be one of the
go.
themes that goes through lots of my stories, though. It's my very first novel, but it's really fun. So, one little thing I can tell you guys that you may not know, in the War of 1812, there was a lot of caches of silver and gold hidden around the Lake Huron area by the
There you go.
bridge.
Let the treasure hunt begin.
Yeah, yeah, and the War of 1812 actually lasted longer than the 1812. So, this like that's the war you don't know much about. So I'm learning about the War of 1812 too. Anyway, that was getting off on a little bit of a different thing. Yeah, Dennis put write what you experience and are knowledgeable. And it's almost like he and I planned this, even though we didn't, because my next thought was let's have everybody just three things. Three hobbies, passions, interests that you have. Just right off the top of your head, don't give it much thought. Put it in the chat. Three things that you're interested in, or you enjoy doing, or that you're an expert in, or that you know something about. Quick, quick, quick.
While they're
I need
writing,
to see answers popping up there.
Johnny, while they're writing, one
Mhm.
of the things that you could do with your treasure hunting is to write an article to a geocaching
That would be fun.
article magazine,
Yes. I've also had
that's a good
geocaching in two of my stories. So yeah, that would
Oh,
be
cool.
cool.
For treasure hunting, letterboxing is better.
What does that mean?
Letterboxing is the grandfather of geocaching,
I have read about that. Yes.
and
Yeah.
they actually write out a treasure map to the treasure that you have to follow to get to
To
the
get to
cache.
there. Yeah, I haven't heard that phrase in a long time, Catherine. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm gonna have to do some research on that.
And you can put letterboxes in more places than you can put geocaches
Right, right.
Wouldn't
because
it be fun to
the
have a
like
treasure
state
map
parks.
in your book?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
we did that with our Scouting Out Adventure series. We actually planted letterboxes in locations that were featured in the story so that people could go and find them, and we got somebody to custom make the stamp because they stamped
Fun.
their books, and if you found all the stamps it would make a picture.
That is really clever.
That
You
is
could write an article
cool.
about that. See, there's
Yes.
an article
There you
right
go.
there. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to read it. So,
Me
so write
too.
it, Catherine. Okay, so we've got some really fun stuff. So just really Catherine talking, writing, laughing. Yep. Joni, small church encouragement, music, youth, Brandy, singing, writing, drawing, Dennis, music, praying, cooking, David, drumming, skill, modeling, rocketry, and shooting. Rachel, beach bum, painting, soap making, scrimshaw. Now that's a different one. That's cool. Uh, AK Coulter, is that Anne? Research,
Arlene.
teach, who? Amy?
That's Arlene Coulter.
Arlene, I'm sorry, Arlene. I'm so sorry. I was just guessing names. Research, teaching children, editing. Brandy, knowledgeable about special needs care. Leslie, crafting, passion is history and sharing God's word. Norma, kids, cooking, encouraging others, kids and grandkids. So those are all just wonderful, wonderful. Well, now choose one. And I'm going to challenge you to write an article about. So let's go back through
And
here a
find where
moment.
to submit it. Don't forget that. Find where to
What?
submit it. Find a place to submit it.
And find a place to submit it. Yeah. And I'll try to do this too. Um, I'm
I
going
might
to
add to that before writing the article, maybe look at a place that you might want to target first so that you can tailor your article
exactly.
to the market instead of trying to fit your piece of writing to something that's out there, because that's a lot harder. And then you might find yourself more
Yes.
discouraged.
So yeah, so that brings
Absolutely.
up something else. Just to get on a little sidetrack here. Is like it, there's two ways to do this. You can write an article and at least do some preliminary research and get an outline or something. But Brandy's right. You've got to gear it to that market. And there might be several markets that you could send the same basic article to with these changes that caters to that. Starting out, it might be easier just to write it. And then you kind of at least know what you have. And then you can sort of figure things out as you do it. So there's two different ways to go about that, but starting out, maybe write the article first, but if not, if you want to just go ahead and just and follow Brandy's advice, which is really good advice too, you can look at where you think you might be able to send it and start off there with that way. This is just great. I wanted to go back to Rachel. Is she on here? No. Rachel, can you pop in? I want to know about more about Scrimshaw. What she might write about. What could she write about
Hey,
Scrimshaw?
hey, I'm here.
Yes. Hey, you.
You're at the grocery store with me
Of
though.
course. Of course, I would pick someone who's at the grocery store.
Um, well, actually, it's been on my mind to fix. I've already written something about Scrimshaw, but that was before I knew I was a writer, and so I've been thinking I need to revisit it and rewrite it.
Oh, that'd be
So
cool.
with
Yes.
that, and so it's a gospel message. So likewise, with my soap, I have a gospel message that goes along with soap making. So,
That's one.
so
Just to clarify, what exactly is Scrimshaw? I think I
okay.
know, but
Okay,
just to
well,
be
I'm going to be
sure.
a real brat here. I'm going to go, if you go to my website, tattooitonyourheart.com, and you click on the tab that says Northlight Studio, you can scroll down and see some of it. So scrimshaw is um, engraving, if you will,
Hmm.
on bone or ivory. Um,
Yeah, that's what I
it was
thought.
what the sailors used to do to, while away their time, like in the whaling days with whale's teeth, etc.
Hmm.
And so um, people do it on, I mean, now, like elephant ivory is illegal in most places, and different depending where you are, depends on what you're allowed to use. Like Barlow uses an acrylic. I use antique piano keys because the old pianos were made with
Oh,
ivory. And so when people go to restore the pianos or throw out the pianos, I'm
Oh,
always
good
game to
idea.
grab those keys.
how
And
interesting.
That
I
is a
make those
great
into
idea.
bookmarks. Yes. And so
Um,
so there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, I've made, earrings and all sorts of things like that, depending on what I have to work with.
Rachel, just so
So you
you
use you
know,
use use a scratching. You use a glass pencil and draw on the ivory. It has to be polished with no scratching. And then
um,
you use a glass pencil to draw the design, and then you use a. It looks like a needle. It's like a pen that has a needle for a point, if you will. And you scratch a design out, wipe the ink on it, and when you wipe it off, the ink only stays in the scratches. So
There's an
there you
article right
go.
there. I mean, there's more
Yes,
than
Yes.
it
one
is.
article right there,
yep.
actually.
Just a heads up, Rachel. It is now illegal in the United States to market any type of ivory. It doesn't matter if it's old
Ooh.
ivory, because my mom had an antique necklace and bracelet that we were going to sell at our estate sale, and they said you cannot. The
Hmm.
uh, Fish and Wildlife has outlawed all transactions of all ivory in the United States.
Wow.
Oh,
Well,
I did
um,
not know that.
Just
Well,
a
that's a
heads
right. Well,
good
up.
that's
point.
Just
that's commercial, and actually, I think. Well, I don't know. I was just looking at that like a couple months ago. I just went
But
and
like
looked that all
upcycling
up, and
an old piano. I mean, come on now.
each state has their
Exactly.
own. Each The states have their own guidelines. Interstate transfer is a big has always been a big issue. Like you
yeah.
can't
Well,
just transfer between states.
this was in 23. So under the
Hmm.
new administration, the rules may have changed again.
Right.
But under the old administration, any ivory, because this was my mom's ivory,
Right.
we had all of the details showing when it was, where it came from, and they said it doesn't matter anymore. No
Right.
ivory transactions.
Wow.
Well, just for the
Interesting.
record, scrimshaw isn't done just on, let's say, elephant ivory or
Right.
whatever. It's done on, all different things, and also um, your your native tribes up north and stuff have
Yeah.
special way too. They're exempt to a lot of that stuff. So, but
All right.
anyway, but
The
there's
I
thing
learned
you
something new
never know
today.
what you're going to learn on Writer's Chat because I'm sure you didn't come here today knowing you're going to learn about scrimshaw, but
Right?
that is so
Right?
fascinating. I'm just so interested in it. Who else would like to share one of their things and what they might write about or get ideas on what they could write about on that topic? Anybody? I see Brandy disappeared.
Hmm. Just words of encouragement are
There she is.
always a great market,
Yes.
and whether it's words of encouragement for those of us with special needs kids or words encouragement for people maybe in the middle of a storm or have a prodigal son or daughter. There's just so much that can fall under the umbrella of encouragement, and so many places like guideposts and so many of your Christian markets take those kind of encouraging true
Mhm.
story type articles. And several places like guideposts and chicken soup, they pay well.
Mhm.
And so there's that perk too.
Well, I was going to actually call on Brandy too because she puts singing and writing in, of course, special needs, and she's very well versed in that. She also has a son who races cars, and so that's kind of a whole different thing. Have you ever written anything about that, Brandy, or thought about that as an article gold mine?
I've thought about it, but have always felt a little bit removed from that because, I'm the person that would be at the racetrack. I'd sing the national anthem. I have that side of it. But, my son and my husband are, you know, over their heads in all of the technical aspects. And so I hear about the technical aspects and I sometimes get a little tripped up and think, well, what could I possibly write about that since I'm not the techie? I'm not the one behind the wheel. I'm just the one that's on the outskirts of it.
Mhm.
So, and then you have the fans, and so I'm like in a different kind of position. I'm not like the avid fan in the seat. I'm like the racer mom, which I suppose I could write something from that perspective. But
I
I,
like it.
I've thought about it, but I've always kind of come up still thinking about it.
Yeah, but an intro, like your first visit to the racetrack. I don't know.
Yeah, well, for a little while I was thinking about like a children's series about racetracks,
Well, there you
fiction
go.
stories. Yeah.
Well, and there's different things because my son has just recently got really involved in not doing it, watching it, Formula One. And so he was trying to tell me
Mhm.
how different it is from like the Daytona
Dirt
500
tracks.
and those. Yeah, and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
yeah.
And it's so there's differences too. So,
There are. There
yeah.
are, but I feel like such a dummy in a lot of it. You know what I mean? Because I just, I'm not the one steeped in it really like steep. Yeah, I'm like the support person. However, I am the one that will go to the racetrack and I'll be there I was like wearing face masks before everybody else was wearing face masks because if I didn't, I would come away from the racetrack completely hoarse and I'd get debris in my eyes. So then I'd wear
Oh,
goggles and a
no.
mask. So yeah, it was just, yeah, I would looking like a dork at the racetrack. Yeah,
And
so
there is your article title.
I guess so. Looking like a dork at the racetrack. I don't know.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That'll
Why
catch
you
somebody's
should look like a
attention.
dork at the racetrack and wear your earplugs too, because I also had those in. It just had long hair, nobody could see it. So, yeah, it was a
Racetrack
spectacle,
dork secrets.
Yeah.
See?
right? There
I
you
feel like you've
go.
got some stuff there. I don't think you have to be an
Racetrack
expert
dork secrets from a national anthem singer. And I don't know. Yeah,
because you do have some experience. So you don't have to be an expert,
a
but
little bit.
you still have stuff
Yeah.
that you can share. Okay.
That's some good points. Yeah, especially like, when the mic cuts out in the middle of singing the national anthem and what do you do?
Mm,
Now, see,
Yeah.
that is not just for the racetrack, but that is
that's
for the
for
people who are afraid of mics,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, right.
people who are
Yes.
Yeah.
afraid of technology.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, this
Catherine's
is
right.
true. Yeah, and
Technology will fail you, but you can survive.
and the cool thing about that is that everybody else saw me still singing because that's what you do. You keep singing. And then the whole, everybody in the stands just picked up and started singing the anthem so
That's
I could hear
cool.
them singing that. I mean, so like you have like a moment like
Mhm.
that. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of illustrations that you could put into anything with using that example saying, when something fails you, it's an opportunity for something greater than you to happen, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there you
because
go.
that happened during the
I
inauguration.
was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Carrie Underwood, she just
Yep.
kept going. Yep.
Yep.
They
Yep.
had glitches.
Yeah.
That's
So,
what it is.
I guess one thing about article writing is keep your eyes open because
Yes.
everywhere around there
Yes.
is a teachable moment that you can take and put into an article.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if Jeannie Wise was still with us today, because she loves to write articles and talks about them, she would tell us, so you've got your topic. So for Brandy, let's say it would be the just racetrack, broad topic. And then what do? You mind map and you just start making those circles and making those diagrams and all these different aspects where she has talked about several different
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
And then you just keep going, keep going, keep going. And then, then you find markets for some of those ideas. And you've got one topic, but tons of things that can come from it.
Very true.
Brandy, I know how much you hate Chat GPT, but you could go into Chat GPT and you could say, as an article brand researcher, find me links to all of the magazines that accept open submissions for this topic.
Hmm.
I did that this past week with fiction writing. I put in there, I said, what markets are currently open for XYZ? And I put in the parameters and it gave me a little list. So I was going to actually suggest that. One good
Wow.
thing you can use Chat GPT for is maybe the marketing piece that you might hate. It can pull things from the web and say, here's this, 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 is this. It's not creating for you. It's just giving you what's already out there and saving some brain power.
And
Great.
that is it, it will also help you flesh out ideas for articles You can tell it what your parameters are for what you want to write, and it can
You can, but
say,
I have run across publications that will say, do not submit to us if you have even used it for that. So you need to be careful for
Wow.
that. They don't want any input from AI, even in helping to flesh out, even in outlining some of them. So read
Wow.
guidelines. That
well,
goes
my
back to
question would
read
be, how would they
guidelines and
know?
follow guidelines.
I
How would they
mean,
know?
yeah.
Well, we have
I
integrity.
I don't know, but the fact that they
Yeah.
don't want it, if you want to be honorable in all that
Yeah,
you don't do it.
you don't do it.
See,
You just
I
don't do it.
guess that I guess I understand what they're saying if you're taking something and you're cutting and pasting and dropping it into your article, but if I'm using it just like I am for this, where we're all spitting out ideas, it's no different from me getting y'all's input to say to the one of the AIs, hey, what are some of the top articles out there that are being yeah, using it for brainstorming, that and I'm not using it to write anything. I'm just using it to start an idea or to come up with some different topics
Brainstorm. Yeah.
about technology or whatever. And I think the people that are doing that in their submission guidelines don't understand the difference between using AI to write your material and using AI as a virtual assistant.
Or they just don't want it
When
to
I
bleed over. So, but that's a
So
topic for
from what
another
I've read,
day.
they just don't support at all anything that has stolen work from other writers, and they are not going to support in any endeavor. So for them, it's very clear cut. There's no support at all because they're not going to give any of it to something that has done something so severely wrong in this industry. They're just not going to support it at all. So they say no AI help at all in your creation. And I can understand that perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm going to stop that because that
Anyway,
can just go
Yep.
on and on and
back
on.
to right, back to the
Yes, that's
topic.
we can talk about that some other day in May. I mean, we've talked about AI before. Brandy did an
We have. Yep.
excellent episode on that, and you can go back and look that up. But it's still growing. I mean, and changing, and the ethics
It
of
is.
it are
Daily.
still totally being worked out. And yeah, I had books that were used on the training of AI, and I know it's it happens. It did. But Sally, we are just a couple minutes. Any final things, thoughts you want to leave us with?
I think the brainstorming is great because it does help you to see there's other ways to use your words that sometimes in your writers group you might flip ideas back and forth,
Mhm.
and it gives you that opportunity to see your writing in a different light. It helps you to see that there's more that you can do than you had imagined. So keep up that good work and brainstorming with each other and bouncing off ideas.
Amen. Amen to
And I
that.
do if I can do a little plug here,
Yes,
if you're interested in writing articles, reach out to me at editor
there you go.
at almostanauthor.com, and I'd be glad to work you through it. Or you can reach me at normapoor.writer@gmail.com.
Yeah, don't overlook the non-paying markets, especially when you're getting started, because that helps you learn and grow as and get critiqued and learn that too. So yeah. Catherine, you are going to be our guest next week. Do you have anything you want to tell us about what you're going to be talking about?
We'll see. No, we're going to be talking about short videos. And I have been playing with some different software that can be used. I use to make mine, I use a pay subscription. So I'm looking at some alternatives out there, but we'll also be talking about whether or not short video is for you.
Okay. That sounds great and very timely. So wonderful. Well, we're all looking forward to that. Thank you for being with us today, all of you who are right here. If you're watching the replay, we invite you to join us any Tuesday morning. We are here at 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central. You can go around the globe to find your time zone. And we welcome you to join us here and also on our Facebook page where you can see all of our episodes and get links to those. All of our episodes are on our YouTube channel. So just look for Writers Chat on YouTube and you can find them there as well. And if you're not already a member of our Writers Chat Facebook group, we invite you to join. There are like 2 or 3 questions you need to answer. If you don't answer them, we will not approve you. So yes, you must answer the questions. So until next week, hang around for the after party. We'll see you then. Bye bye, everybody.